Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We've got not quite breaking NFL news. This has been out for about an hour, but that's what gets us started today. 615-737-1045, the number. F&M Bank chat, off and rolling. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. The news, aforementioned, Aziz Al-Shaair, Titans legend, question mark, Texans linebacker, either way. He's suspended for 3 games after... I mean, it is a vicious hit that he puts on Trevor Lawrence. I don't mean to laugh because obviously there's some concern that Trevor Lawrence, who got carted off the field during that game and obviously did not return, later put out a tweet, which Bert and I were recklessly speculating yesterday was somebody tweeting from his account just so the league felt better about Trevor Lawrence being carted off the field after taking a hit to the head.
It was ugly. It was really bad.
There's not a single person that caped up for Aziz Al-Shaair, right?
Yeah,
I couldn't find anyone anywhere. Even, Bert was citing Ryan Clark, gave a response somewhere on television or maybe a podcast or something like that where he's talking about all the different ways as a defender that you can find to slow yourself down in a moment like that so as not to directly launch yourself at another player's head, most importantly. The quarterback, but yes, Aziz Al-Shaair, 3 games is what he will miss. There are 5 games left in the regular season, which means if he's healthy, Aziz Al-Shaair will still be available when the Texans come to Nashville to face the Titans in Week 18. The line from John Runyon, who is the NFL Vice President of Football Operations, who obviously oversees the suspensions, quote, "Your lack of sportsmanship and respect of the game of football and all those who play, coach, and enjoy watching it is troubling and does not reflect the core values of the NFL." I don't remember Aziz Al-Shaair being a problem child when he was here.
Yeah, and this is framed as a suspension for repeated violations.
He had a late hit against the Titans.
Player safety rules. Yeah, this is not just about the hit on Lawrence.
It's been a bit of a trend for him this year. He's boxing Chicago Bears players on the sideline after a hit out of bounds. He's late hitting against the Titans. He looks, Aziz was only here for a year, so I'm not going to act like I know the guy super well. But in all of my dealings for that year that he was here, I never saw the person that I saw being dragged off the sidelines in Jacksonville, screaming and shouting, again, trying to fight more people on his way out the door. He looked like a fool. He looked like a complete and total unhinged person. And I understand he's an NFL linebacker. Sometimes unhinged is a part of the job, but it went way beyond the scope of the play. It's one of the more... it's one of the more visceral reactions I've seen to a single individual play this year, and understandably so, especially when it's involving one of 32 quarterbacks who the league is always there to protect.
So it involves the Titans in a couple ways, right? 1, he may come back for that regular season finale at Nissan Stadium. And 2, probably going to see Mac Jones on Sunday. Not official, but stands to reason that Trevor Lawrence, reasonable to think that Lawrence won't be able to come back in just 1 week. How about this in Adam Schefter's reporting? Al-Shaair will appeal the suspension, according to Adam Schefter. The appeal will be heard by one of the appeals officers jointly appointed by the league and the NFLPA. Derek Brooks, Kevin Mawai, Jordy Nelson, or Ramon Foster.
Oh, okay. So obviously, is this like jury duty where you can't talk about the case that you're assigned to?
Definitely.
Okay.
And we don't know if he even is assigned it. It's one of those guys will be dealing with it.
Okay. Well, we will see what the outcome of the appeal is. I suppose we'll find out when everybody else finds out, or I'll just spend every morning while Ramon Foster is leaving the studio and I'm entering the studio asking him about it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with it?
Aziz Al-Shaair has been flagged and fined multiple times for hits like this. Like we said, he was fined over $11,000 for the hit on Pollard. Mm-hmm. And he was fined over $11,000 again after punching Roschon Johnson on the sideline a few weeks ago.
What kind of money is he making? He can't afford to be. I don't think that he can afford to be just losing $11,000 every game for a late hit that he seems to be to have a proclivity for.
Well, remember, the Titans wanted to bring him back.
And then he didn't want to come back.
And he signed a 3-year, $34 million deal with the Texans.
I don't think he was that interested in being here in the first place. And, the circumstance worked out to where he took a prove-it deal here in Tennessee and ultimately landed in the place that he wanted to land, which is back with his former defensive coordinator, DeMeco Ryans, now head coach of the Houston Texans.
He set the single-season tackle record while here, right?
Yeah, no, he was fine here. He's complete. He was a good soldier throughout the course of that season. It was not a pleasant season. He was one of these people that we were constantly talking to in the locker room. I looked at him as somebody who was kind of a stopgap leader in that locker room last year defensively, where there was a bunch of pieces and parts that had, some fraying edges to it. But, yeah, the person that I saw being dragged off the sideline in Jacksonville screaming and feeling no remorse, it would seem, for the hit that he put on Trevor Lawrence, at least in real time. And even the apology, it didn't really strike the right tone. It was more, I'm sorry that happened to you. Not, I'm sorry that I did that to you. I'm sorry that happened to you. Is the way that I read that apology statement from Aziz Al-Shaair, which, whatever. You did the thing. You certainly weren't apologetic in real time as you saw his not lifeless, but damn near lifeless body splayed out in front of you on the field.
It's hard as the layman to sit there and say that was disgusting, that you should have rolled over, because heat of the moment with how fast the game is going, there's no way to transport yourself into the shoes of a defender and truly know if you would have had that reaction time in a full speed moment like that. But when you hear the Ryan Clarks and Michael Strahans of the world say, no, that was dirty. That was messed up, then you can feel good about saying, okay, yeah, that was dirty.
All right, so Mac Jones comes into the game, and he plays fine. Or he plays fine, not good enough to win, but they do give the Texans a game as that wore on. The losing streak continues for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, the Titans' next opponent coming in here to Nissan Stadium. They are now 2-10. They are terrible. They
have the number one pick at the moment. It's
a really, really down year for the bottom of the barrel in the NFL, as we've talked about before, where there has never felt to me, at least in the last decade of covering professional football, where the gap between haves and have-nots is so great, including this team here locally. So you have the Jags coming to town, 2-10. You have the Titans hosting, 3-9. Who leaves with the better draft position is going to be a talking point, I suppose. But ultimately, the goal, the task, is to still try and beat an AFC South opponent, even if you would prefer to see your team lose for the sake of draft positioning at this point. The question is, what does Jacksonville do, not just Sunday, but long-term? So let's play along with the hypothetical. Again, there's no reporting to this effect. It's just an assumption on our part that Trevor Lawrence is likely to not be available for Sunday's game. Okay? Let's start there first and foremost. Nobody said definitively that Trevor Lawrence isn't or is going to play. Could they just ride it out with Mac Jones? Like, it's 5 games, including Sunday. Could they just go through the rest of the season with Mac Jones? Because Trevor Lawrence, putting him out there for a 2-win football team when you have that much of an investment in him, yeah, it's waving the white flag. Yeah, it's akin to passively tanking, if not actively tanking. But I feel like there at least is a conversation to be had with Jacksonville about finishing out the season with Mac Jones if you're trying to protect that number 1 overall pick. Now, Mac Jones may play better. And Mac Jones is, I don't know his contract status. Is he on a multi-year? Did they trade it for him? Didn't they?
Did they trade for him?
Let me double check.
From New England, the Jags play the Titans twice, the Jets, the Raiders, and the Colts in their last 5 games. So they do not play a team that currently has a winning record. Now, with that said, 15 out of 32 teams in the NFL have a losing record. So about half the league is under 500 right now. But they're playing some bottom of the barrel teams.
He did get traded. He got traded from the Patriots for a 2024 6th round pick, which ultimately became.
You said for a 6th round pick?
Who did the Patriots pick in the 6th round this year?
This year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Joe Milton.
Yeah, became Joe Milton.
There you go. Mac Jones for Joe Milton.
That's right, straight up. So he's still on his rookie contract. Obviously, Jacksonville declined the $25.6 million option that would have come with Mac Jones's contract, and he is scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent in 2025, which would make an interesting discussion at that point. But I don't know. I think that there is at least some logic to letting him finish out the year. The schedule is so soft. I don't know. Wouldn't that be worst case scenario for Jacksonville to kind of like put together a couple of wins here at the end of the season against a bunch of bad teams. Two against the Titans, you said, one against the Raiders, one against the Colts, and who was the other team?
Jets.
The Jets.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Again, I want to do some research and find out if Trent Baalke were to keep his job and the Jags were to keep the number 1 overall pick, surely he would be the general manager in NFL history to have the most number 1 overall selections in his career with the same franchise. Sure, I mean, that would make what, like 3rd, 4th?
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of bad years of bottoming out football.
I mean, I'm sure that's happened. Like, we have had more patience for general managers and coaches in years past in the NFL.
Yeah,
so maybe it's happened before and we're just being a little... It seems unthinkable, unconscionable even in today's NFL to allow somebody to keep their job for that much bad football. And Jacksonville has been one of the worst NFL franchises by win percentage basically since they've existed. 615-737-1045, the number. You have headlines?
I have a lot of headlines.
Coming up next.
It's time for headlines with Lucas Panzica.
Week 13 of the NFL season wrapped up on Monday Night Football in Denver as the Broncos won a third straight game with a late surge over the Browns, 41-32. Now, before we get to the hilarity of Jameis Winston, real quick, Bo Nix, numbers don't jump off the page. 18-35, 294 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. But, man, he made some really nice throws in this game. He raised a lot of eyebrows in this game, and the most impressive one was the 93-yard touchdown to Marvin Mims Jr. down the seam, middle of the field, just on the money. And Bo Nix has been doing this for the last few weeks, but he was in front of a primetime audience last night. Some more people took note. But the gap is closing a little bit on Jaden Daniels in the Offensive Rookie of the Year discussion. Daniels separated a little more after his performance, 4 total touchdowns against the Titans. Jaden Daniels is plus 240, still very much minus 270. Bo Nix is plus 240 for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Broncos are 8-5. I mean, so are the Commies.
They're playing good football
at this point.
They're doing it behind an excellent rookie class like Audric Estime, Bo Nix, guys across the board that they drafted from 1st to 7th round contributing.
I don't know why I didn't realize they had Troy Franklin, too, the Oregon wide receiver, which makes a lot of sense in trying to keep some level of continuity for a rookie quarterback. But, yeah, the rookies have been solid. I mean, the rookies that have played meaningful snaps have been solid. Even Caleb Williams, who I think is a product of a bad offensive line and less than ideal coaching. It feels like 1,000 years ago since Matt Eberflus got fired, and obviously we didn't talk about that on that day. But I think that Jaden Daniels, if it just comes down to a numerical situation and they're both in the playoff hunt at this point, then I think the tie would go to Jaden Daniels. I think the degree of difficulty for the Washington football franchise, the Washington Commanders, to be playing relevant games in December is crazy to think about. In my lifetime, they've never, ever mattered. They've always been just a wasteland for professional football. The Broncos, though, if Bo Nix is legitimately the quarterback, how many quarterbacks have they gone through since Peyton Manning? It's some outrageous number.
What's the number? Like 15 or 16 that have started games since Peyton.
It's not quite 10 years ago since Peyton Manning retired. It's been a while, but it's not quite 10 years ago. 15, I think it might be more than 15, to be honest with you. And these, it's including high-round draft picks.
Oh, everything.
Guys who've been paid a lot of money.
It ranges from highly drafted guys to a wide receiver playing a game in the COVID season to the Drew Locks.
I didn't really count him.
To Russell Wilson.
Maybe I should. I don't know.
Drew Locks of the world and Brock Osweiler. Yeah, it's a long list.
Oh, Brock Osweiler. So, I still think Jaden Daniels is the Offensive Rookie of the Year, not just because I picked him at the beginning of the season to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I do think that he has been more impressive than Bo Nix in spurts. But what Bo Nix has done, what they've both done to help turn around two franchises that have kind of been left in the dust but matter a great deal historically, it's pretty cool to watch.
Broncos will play the Colts next on Sunday before closing out with the Chargers and Bengals on the road and then hosting the Chiefs in the regular season finale.
Horse-on-horse crime.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jameis Winston. The full Jameis experience last night.
He was excellent.
Yeah, excellent and terrible.
That's what I mean. Jameis Winston, by my standards, Jameis Winston, excellent.
He was quintessential Jameis Winston. 34 of 58, 497 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, including a 44-yard pick six inside the 2-minute warning to pretty much end it in a 41-32 final when the Browns were driving, trying to find a lead there late in the game. So Jameis Winston spoke with the media after the game about exactly that.
I know I'm better than this. I know I'm just praying for the Lord to deliver me from pick sixes.
So good. Continues to deliver.
He's perfect.
But there are some off-field issues there that have popped up along the way. But yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay.
Entertainment-wise, I mean, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. In fact,
are you talking about the Uber situation from the end of his college career? Okay, yeah, that's fine.
In fact, Jameis Winston finished Monday night's game with those 497 passing yards. That is a Browns single-game franchise record. It is only 20 fewer passing yards than Tom Brady's 517 in 2011. So just short of the most all-time on Monday Night Football. He also threw 3 picks, including not 1 but 2 pick sixes, including the game clincher for Denver. That makes him the first player in NFL history to have 450 pass yards in a game with multiple pick sixes.
I wonder what the market is going to be like for him. I mean, if Cleveland starts Jameis Winston this year, don't you think they're in a markedly better place? I know that's an impossible hypothetical to consider because they didn't. They ran it out with Deshaun Watson. They ran it until the wheels came off, and the wheels have come off several years ago at this point with Deshaun Watson. But that was the company line. That's what ownership wanted. That's what they're going to do. Okay. But they seem so miserable while they were starting Deshaun. I don't know that they would have given them a chance in this division where it's just the Steelers and the Ravens at the top of it because the Bengals did lose again. And I hate it for Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow is playing quality football and just they can't. I mean, he didn't play his best game on Sunday, obviously, but he's had to be perfect all year long, and it hasn't mattered for them. But I can't help but think that a team like Cleveland, what is Cleveland going to do at quarterback? He's on the books. He's got a cap hit of like $70-something million next
Deshaun,
year.
Yeah. I mean,
they have to either find somebody to draft, which is going to be, I mean, it's not impossible. They're going to have a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah, the 3-9.
Provided that they continue to lose. But like 3-9 is good for 7th right now. That's the Titans. That doesn't exactly lend itself to just being in the quarterback discussion. And this is not the best quarterback. This is not the franchise savior quarterback draft, right? So, I mean, it makes more sense to me for Cleveland to try and keep Jameis at the end of the year on a cost-effective deal and not just do what they did with Joe Flacco, which is just let him walk. They can be more competitive with Jameis.
I mean, they're 2-3 since he took over.
That's more competitive than they were.
Sure. It's
2 of the 3 wins?
The variance, right? I mean, you led them to a big win over the Ravens and that win in the snow against the Steelers, but they could only muster 10 points in a blowout loss to the Chargers, right? They got routed by the Saints in Darren Rizzi's interim coaching debut. They lose in a heartbreaking way last night. So, sure, maybe they would be marginally more competitive. Maybe they'd be a 5-win team instead of a 3-win team.
What does Jameis Winston get paid next year?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
You know, because he's still got that. He can still push the ball down the field. They had no semblance of a running game last night. He had no choice but to throw the ball all over the place. And when Jameis has that much volume passing, something bad is going to happen.
It all depends on whether or not the Lord delivers him from the pick sixes. That will directly impact his pocketbook. Moving on. So
the LASIK didn't do it. Maybe the higher power can, you know?
Kind of a wild week 13 in the NFL. Sunday Night Football in the snow was an awesome sight. Unfortunately, the game was not. And the 49ers, I mean, their problems continue to stack upon themselves. Christian McCaffrey is probably done for the year with a PCL injury. He heads to IR. Not only does McCaffrey go, Jordan Mason, the backup running back who had a phenomenal start to the season when McCaffrey was dealing with that Achilles injury, he heads to IR with an ankle injury with 5 games left in the year. So those guys got to miss a minimum of 4 games. They could both be done for the season. They didn't have Trent Williams at left tackle in Buffalo. They didn't have Nick Bosa out there. They did get Brock Purdy back for that game, but it's just that kind of year for the 49ers. They are 5-7 and bottom of the NFC West.
Well, so that kind of year for the Niners, okay. Does it not signify kind of the closing of their window a little bit? I mean, they're at the bottom of the division, and I know the health thing is critical.
Yeah,
but
I think it's an injury bug thing this year.
McCaffrey's not getting any younger, and the outlier, honestly, is the healthy McCaffrey seasons, right? He's dealt with injuries across the course of his career, and it was a little suspect putting him out there. He's been back from injury for a couple of weeks now, but like in the snow, seeing the non-contact thing, you just kind of held your breath for him at any given moment. Their season is done at the bottom of the division, even though the division is close. They're 5-7. I just don't know. I don't know how they proceed forward when Brock Purdy's contract is looming here. And the reason that they have been able to sustain for as long as they have is because Brock has been an outlier on that rookie deal. I mean, one of the most cost-effective players, if not the most cost-effective player by value of the position that he plays.
You'd have to say
anywhere in football.
I think you'd have to say he is. For a 7th-round draft pick salary to be the franchise quarterback of a Super Bowl contender for the last few years, definitely the most bang for your buck any single player is giving any NFL team in the last couple of years.
And so that's getting ready to end, right? Because they're going to have to pay him. He deserves to be paid. He will be paid, if not there. I assume it would be there, but if not there, somebody is going to pay this guy. Either way, Niners rebuild around the corner.
They've already paid Ayuk, who's out for the season.
That's a big part of that.
And he just got his deal.
Trent Williams and George Kittle have both missed time, but I mean, Trent Williams is not going to play forever.
Yeah, he's getting up there, and he dealt with some tragedy this week,
Getting
too.
up there. He's been up there.
Sad story for Trent Williams' side this week.
I didn't see it.
They announced that the couple, Trent Williams and his wife, Sandra, announced that their son, Trenton Jr., was stillborn back in late November. So he's dealing with some personal tragedy on top of all that as well.
That's awful.
But yeah, so injury bug has hit them this year. They've got some aging stars, and they've got some contracts to sort through, including what they're going to give to Brock Purdy. But as long as Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of the 49ers, I'm not going to dismiss their window. But I see what you're saying in terms of the Niners.
It feels like the window for this team.
The Niners, as we currently know them, yes, I agree with you there. They're bottom of the division at 5-7, and the Seahawks lead that division at 7-5. Cardinals and Rams are 6-6.
Yeah, you hate to see it because they got to the Super Bowl plenty of times, but they could never cash in because the Mahomes thing is just standing in their way for forever at this point. They made it to plenty of NFC Championship games during their time. They have been one of the most efficient teams since basically in the last decade of football, since 2017, which I believe is when Shanahan took over. How much better they've been able to improve year over year and then sustain year over year, where they're still averaging 2.08 points per drive, but that's a pretty significant dip from what they were able to do last year, 2.69 according to ESPN's efficiency metrics. It takes a toll. That's why I think that what the Chiefs are doing is so impressive. You remember how quickly the Warriors fell apart after the KD thing, where it's just the personality clash starts and you just play so much more basketball throughout the course of a season and then a postseason where you're consistently competing for longer than everybody else. You have the shortest offseason of everybody else, and it just wears you down. I think all of these things are a product of what we're seeing happen to this collection of 49ers, and it sucks because they feel like one of these teams that should have a title to their name for a historically great franchise that prides itself on how many titles they've been able to win, but I just feel like it's over.
The Warriors won another title, bud, after KD left.
No, I know. But the way that it flamed out with all of those different pieces and parts, like Kevin Durant could have stayed in Golden State and continued to win titles. They could have continued to set records, and it just took a toll on everybody.
So Landon on the F&M Bank chat says the Lions are the new powerhouse of the NFC. And most would agree. But man, the Eagles,
their defense, man, I don't know where they're signing Jamal Adams to be on their practice squad, and they're just pulling pieces and parts from everybody else's cast-offs. David Long is also a Lion.
They just keep on winning games.
No, I know.
They did get away with one on Thanksgiving, giving up a lead there, and
we still haven't talked about Eberflus.
Yeah, I was going to go to the Eagles here, who are winners of 8 straight and won a massive game against the Ravens on Sunday. But yeah, real quick, Matt Eberflus fired as the head coach of the Bears. The clock management was embarrassing at the end of that Thanksgiving game. Bears driving down the field, just mismanagement as horribly as you possibly could, needing a field goal there at the end.
On the part of the player, too. Now, I know Caleb Williams is not going to get the same smoke because everybody hates Matt Eberflus if you're a Chicago Bears fan, but like Caleb Williams also could have tried and put them in a better position. I know that's a big ask for a young player, but still, I think it's worth noting.
Well, it was the final straw for the Bears with Matt Eberflus. He is done. They are 4-8. Thomas Brown, what a year he's had. He goes from passing game coordinator to interim offensive coordinator when they fired their OC, Shane Waldron, to now interim head coach. The former Panthers OC that interviewed here for the Titans head coaching gig last offseason. The Bears have moved on from Matt Eberflus, and you imagine there will be a cleaning of house there in this upcoming offseason.
The people who are hiring for this job, Kevin Warren, I believe is the name of the former Big Ten commissioner turned Bears CEO and president, and Ryan Poles, who's their general manager. They called it the most attractive job opening in the NFL this cycle, even though there are some openings that are not yet open yet, which I think is, fair to say if you're one of the first teams out there, I guess. It's sure as hell not the Jets.
So Jets and Bears and Saints are the only openings in the NFL.
Well, the Rizzy guy, I don't know. He may hang on to it as the interim.
Maybe it's unfair to say this, but it feels kind of like an Antonio Pierce sort of vibe where players love him.
Antonio Pierce got the job the next year.
Right. And we're seeing how that's going this year.
I'm just saying, it's not open clearly, until it is.
Absolutely. But the players love him. He's the interim coach. He's a special teams coordinator. He's a funny guy. He's a great personality. And the Saints are winning games with him.
Ask Jay if he doesn't. Your Saints fan buddy that's been very, very tortured. Ask Jay if he doesn't think that Darren Rizzi won't be retained as the Saints head coaches with this, as if that's not the most Saints thing to do.
They have much deeper problems than just Darren Rizzi or whoever's going to be the next
I'm not saying that it's right, wrong, but I'm just saying,
sure.
Of all the ones that could be filled by an interim guy, that is the one that makes the most sense.
It is the most attractive current opening in the NFL.
Between the two of them.
Between Jets and Saints.
No, thank you. There's a lot of reporting, specifically from Courtney Cronin of ESPN, who, by the way, ripped the Bears. Not ripping Eberflus, not ripping the locker room, but ripping the people who put all this stuff together. Apparently, the company line was that they were still in a meeting making a decision on Matt Eberflus's job on Friday when he was speaking to media at the podium. I call BS. I think that's nonsense. I think as soon as that person got up to the podium to try to offer an explanation of how his team handled or didn't handle that late game situation and said, I thought we handled it the right way, I'm sure a decision was made. Right? We all looked at that person and said, oh, he's not going to have a job come Monday morning, and I was surprised he made it that far into Friday as he did. The offensive line is the thing that really, really makes that Chicago job suspect. Until they get that corrected, I just don't know how Caleb Williams can live up to the potential that's been set, because it is a really good spot. There's not that much work that has to be done there, right? Like, the Bears aren't that far away from being meaningfully competitive in a division that's just a hellscape for teams who are trying to survive the NFC North right now. But the offensive line is a critical part of that, and as we well know here locally in Nashville, that's not an easy fix. It's not a one-off season fix, and I don't know who is going to look at that job and be like, oh, yeah, I get why the people who are selling this job to the general public are saying it's attractive. But that's the kind of quarterback. That quarterback has just enough talent to get me fired if we don't produce.
Well, at the top of the NFC, we've talked about the Lions escaping that game against the Bears on Thanksgiving. Eagles have won 8 in a row. They beat the Ravens 24-19 in Baltimore on Sunday. It was a duel of the NFL's 2 lead rushers, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. Barkley had a better game. He currently leads the league in rushing with 1,499 yards. Derrick has 1,407 yards. Saquon has 2 less rushing touchdowns, but a little bit of a better average yards per carry. So that could be a fun duel down the stretch, but Saquon has a bit of a lead. And the Ravens have some issues, man. Their defense has struggled all year. Deontay Johnson, the receiver they acquired in a trade with the Panthers, did not play a snap against the Eagles. And John Harbaugh's getting questions about it. He said, quote, at this time, I'm going to have to wait just to clarify it. There's some moving parts there that we're going to have to figure out and explore and just see where we're at. I know that's not the answer you want, but that's the best I can do in fairness to everybody right now. He said, we'll just work it out and see where we're at over the next few days this week. So Ravens are on a bye this week. Just kind of weird situation there around Deontay Johnson, who you thought could come in and help them. And the defense has been a struggle. So, the Ravens are, without a doubt, the best, what are they, 8-win team in the NFL. The Ravens are currently 8-5.
You didn't mention the biggest issue with the Ravens, Justin Tucker.
Yeah, wow.
So he's missed 8 field goals in 13 games. He's missed a couple of extra points. He missed 3 kicks in this 24-19 loss to Philly on Sunday, 2 field goals and an extra point. You got to move on.
I saw somebody pointed out Justin Tucker's entire Hall of Fame career, Hall of Fame worthy portion of his career might have happened in between Texas and Texas A&M games because he walked off that last one in 2011 to win for Texas, got into the NFL, went on one of the best runs by a kicker we've ever seen, and it seems like the fall off is happening as Texas and Texas A&M reunite with that rivalry.
If you're the Ravens, because like I'm saying you don't have to cut him, but you can't let him be the kicker anymore. 8 kicks this year for a team that's going to need field goal kicking and has been able to rely on him just banking them in from 50 plus his entire career. You have to have something more reliable. Now, kicking has saved Nick Folk. Kicking has been kind of nightmarish all over the NFL this year from kickers that you normally trust, which is justice for Nick Folk that his special teams unit is so bad around him and Morgan Cox and everybody else. You know, he's just out there doing his job. He's had one of the best years of his career this year. I just don't know that the Ravens can afford to keep Justin Tucker in that job, which is a crazy thing to say. I never thought that there would be a discussion around a clear and obvious Hall of Fame player where he's a liability right now. Those are the headlines?
Those are the headlines.
Very good. We'll take your phone calls coming up next. We also have things for you to win. Jackson, what do I have to give away for the people who call in and tell us what in sports made them say, oh no, this week?
2 tickets to see Justin Timberlake's The Forget Tomorrow World Tour at Bridgestone Arena on December 12th, plus a $100 gift card from A Moment's Peace.
That is a hell of a prize to get this holiday season started. If you want those 2 tickets to Justin Timberlake and that $100 A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa gift card, all you have to do is call us 615-737-1045 and tell us what in sports made you say, oh no. Will I have enough money when I retire? When should I start to draw from Social Security? The holiday season is already upon us, folks, but it's still not too late to check this year's financial resolution off your list. Give Trajan Wealth a call today to start achieving your financial goals. If you have any questions that are keeping you up at night about your finances, let me introduce you to that team at Trajan Wealth that's there to keep the light on for you and to help keep you on the right track and guide you through it. Trajan Wealth, that's Trajan Wealth, is not just any financial firm. They are your partners in securing your financial future. They are more than just a fiduciary firm. They're a family-owned, veteran-led team that puts your needs first. Let their decades of experience specializing in retirement planning and wealth management work for you. Trajan Wealth offers free consultations to help you develop your plan and keep that peace of mind. So call them today at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com today. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC. an SEC registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. That's right. It's made possible by A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa at 9050 Carruthers Parkway in Franklin, Tennessee. If you have not done your holiday shopping yet, you should do that. You should do it at A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. They have all manner of different offerings, haircuts, skincare treatments, massages, as well as nail services, and so many other things on offer. AMomentsPeace.com is where you go, or you could call us. You could tell us what in sports made you say, oh no. We'll give you a $100 gift card to A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa and 2 tickets to Justin Timberlake's upcoming concert here in Nashville. December the 12th is the date of the show?
December the 12th.
All right, very good. I'm going to start with Ryan Day. Ryan Day is still employed today. I expect that he will still be employed until such time as his team gets bounced from the college football playoff. If they lose in the first round of the college football playoff, I would expect that Ryan Day would no longer be the head coach of Ohio State, though that is not exactly something that is guaranteed. They could win the national championship, and Ryan Day might still be the coach of Ohio State.
The hefty buyout.
Even though he can't beat Michigan, and I think there is enough angst around this Michigan loss that would make people want to fire Ryan Day. But that's not why he's my oh no today. He is my oh no today because of his commentary after we talked about this a little bit yesterday. There's flag planting all over the place in college football on Saturday. And Ryan Day got to the podium afterwards, asked about the situation that resulted in a skirmish between his team and the Michigan football team who tried to plant the flag at midfield of Ohio Stadium. And Ryan Day decided, no, they're not going to do that against us. This was him at the podium.
Ryan, do you have comment on the melee that happened at midfield after the game? You had staff and assistant coaches that looked like they got bloodied during the skirmish.
Yeah, I don't know all the details of it, but I know that, these guys, are looking to, put a flag on our field, and our guys weren't going to let that happen. So, I'll find out exactly what happened. But, this is our field, and certainly, we're embarrassed with the fact that we lost the game, but there's some prideful guys in his team that weren't just going to let that happen.
Not prideful enough to win the football game that Michigan just kept trying to hand you. Not prideful enough to score touchdowns in this game, even though you have a talent profile that is significantly better than the Michigan Wolverines, who I believe were 6-5 coming into this game. Not prideful enough to not realize that, you know what? You should have just let them plant the flag. You know why? You can't plant a flag in turf. It's a turf field. Flag's not going to stay up.
Just slipping and sliding all over that.
Would have just fallen over the flag that you were so prideful that you refused to let them plant, even though the turf itself would not allow the flag to be planted. Ryan Day made me say, for a variety of different reasons, including him just watching on as the skirmish happens and then asking a player after the fact, what happened?
What happened?
Still doesn't know at the podium. What happened? Oh, no. Oh, no, bud. Just oh, no all over the place. That's good enough to get the TikTok sound, isn't it?
That's the thing. Michigan did not play well. Defensively,
they did not play well at all.
They shut down Ohio State in the run game. Ohio State averaged 3 yards per carry and 77 rush yards. Michigan, with quarterback Davis Warren, had 62 pass yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in the air. So this was not a Michigan team that played the game of their life. Ohio State just curled up into a shell and lost to probably the worst Michigan team that Ryan Day will ever go up against. So, yeah, big Michigan problem. He has just gone 10-2 for yet another season. He has never lost more than 2 games in a regular season. They want him out of there. Meanwhile, Mark Stoops at Kentucky just went 4-8 and seems to be coming back. Different programs, very different standards. But Mark Stoops is speaking like a guy that is going to return. There's been nothing to indicate.
Well, so did Matt Eberflus, for what it's worth.
Sure, but there's nothing to indicate right now. No buzz about Mark Stoops, who is the longest tenured active coach in the SEC since being hired in 2012, that he would be out. But my oh no in sports this weekend is Gerald Mincey, Kentucky offensive lineman who transferred over from Tennessee. And this video that came out during Kentucky's drubbing against Louisville, 41-14. They were destroyed at home against their rival. And during the game, there is video of Kentucky football player Gerald Mincey ordering something at the concession stand. He left the sideline. Now, he was not fully dressed out. He was clearly injured for this game. He's wearing his jersey, but without pads. So you see him in his sweatpants and in his jersey with no pads on, ordering something at the concession stand.
Oh, my God, I just saw the picture.
He left the sideline to go into the concourse and go get a hot dog or something while his team is getting destroyed by their in-state rivals, the Louisville Cardinals. That is what made me say, oh, no, in sports this weekend.
I want to know what he got.
Wow.
Me too.
What did he order? What was so worth it?
He sat there. It's 20-0.
He waited in line.
And he said, I want a hot dog. And walked off the sideline into the concourse. Somebody said that NIL money being pumped back into the program. That made me laugh.
The video, there's an account called Cookem Cats on Twitter that just has a 3-second video of Gerald Mincey in the concourse ordering whatever he's ordering. It says, why the F? It doesn't bleep it. Why the F is Gerald Mincey at the concession stand while the game is going on? This is everything wrong with the Kentucky program under Mark Stoops. I mean, Bart on YouTube says, man's got to eat.
I imagine Mark Stoops ripping the team at halftime for getting blown out by Louisville, and then finally looks at Gerald Mincey. Gerald, where'd you get that hot dog?
Where'd you get the hot dog?
Why are you eating nachos?
That's like LeBron James being injured for a game. I can't remember if he was still with the Cavs or with the Lakers at the time, but he just has a full bottle of wine on the sideline. He's just chilling, taking a sip. I think this is worse though. Going out to the concourse in the concessions. Were they at Kentucky Stadium?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's at home. It was in Lexington. At Kroger Field. Jael says chili cheese Fritos. You think they have walking tacos at Kroger Field?
I mean, I don't know. Do they have the Kroger sushi that you see offered at Kroger? I mean, I don't know what they're offering at Kroger
Field. Maybe a rotisserie chicken. Do you know? Maybe he just needed a carton of eggs.
No, rotisserie chicken is not at Kroger. That's you living your 1%er lifestyle, as we well know on this show.
My Kroger has rotisserie chickens. What are you talking about?
Oh, well,
Kroger has always had rotisserie chicken.
We're going to flip this back on you because you, as someone who seemingly has never set foot inside of a Kroger, believe that Kroger is so down and dirty that they don't even have rotisserie chickens.
Unless they want to give us their money. Then I left Kroger, and I'll stop going to Trader Joe's. Jackson?
Mine comes from the Syracuse-Miami game. This comes from a sports anchor and reporter for CNY Central, Ashley Winiskowski. I hope I got that right.
You didn't.
She tweeted during the game, Sebastian the Ibis, Miami's mascot, just kneeled down and asked for my number mid-drive. Feels like he has bigger things to worry about with his team on the ropes in the fourth quarter.
No.
But who am I to say?
No.
Yes, the mascot asked for a sports reporter's number on the sidelines during Miami's loss to Syracuse.
Miami blew a 21-0 lead.
I have so many follow-up questions.
I do too. I think we should reach out.
A chance to go to the ACC championship game, maybe a playoff spot, and the mascot gets turned down on the sideline.
My most important follow-up is did he use his own words? Mascots famously don't speak. Did he write out some messaging to, can you give me your number on like a whiteboard on the sidelines? Do they still have whiteboards on the sidelines? I don't know.
I also want more information. She just tweeted that he asked for her number. So I'm assuming he spoke through the mask.
At risk of also seeming like I'm propositioning this reporter, I'm tempted to slide into the DMs and ask her if she'll appear on the radio show so that we can ask her said follow-up questions.
Well, the mascot tried that, and it didn't go well.
I'm not saying I want her number. I just,
Jackson, you want to ask for her number?
I would like her number so that we could call her and bring her on the radio show because I have many, many follow-up questions.
Oh, bad day for the Miami Hurricanes.
Bad day to be an Ibis.
Wow. That's tough. All right, your phone calls on What in Sports made you say, oh no, coming up next, as well as the most impressive quarterbacks of the college football season. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Week 13 in the NFL wrapped up on Monday Night Football with the Denver Broncos winning with a late pick six to pull away from the Cleveland Browns, 41-32. The final score. Coming up later tonight, college football playoff rankings will come out. The final ranking of the regular season. The Vols are 10-2 and expect to be in. Ranking comes out on ESPN at 6 p.m. In other NFL news, Texans linebacker Aziz Al-Shaair has been suspended 3 games for repeated violations of player safety rules after his hit to the head of Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence on Sunday. The hit had Lawrence carted off the field, and it got Al-Shaair ejected from the game. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour is upon us. We got a bunch of phone calls to take. A lot of you guys want to go to see Justin Timberlake. Of course, in order to do that and secure the $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa, you have to tell us what in sports made you say, oh no. Rivalry week is what we've just come off of, which means there are candidates to be pulled from all over the place. Let's reset the board quickly for those people who may not have heard our submissions. Mine was Ryan Day, not knowing why his team was fighting, not knowing that his team was prideful enough to not stop Michigan, but was prideful enough to keep them from planting a flag in a field that is made of turf that could not have a flag planted in it. Lucas?
Mine was Gerald Mincey, the Tennessee transfer and current Kentucky offensive lineman, ordering food at the concession stand, leaving the sideline to do so in the middle of his team getting blown out by Louisville at home.
Jackson?
The sports reporter being hit on by the mascot.
Yeah. Bert is claiming that the person, that the reporter who had that story out there is being untruthful. He does not believe that the woman could have been hit on by a mascot. Apparently, he thinks that wearing a mascot outfit permits you or forbids you from speaking. I can tell you that is, in fact, not the case. So Bert denying the truth of what happened between...
On a weekly basis.
Huh?
You see T-Rack on a weekly basis. You guys have chats, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like covering a professional sports franchise and having moments that feel like they should be in a Sports Center commercial where I'm passing T-Rack on the hall of or in the hall of St. Thomas Sports Park while he's going to get his coffee. It feels like it should be in a Sports Center commercial. Anyway,
we should do that
with T-Rack,
with the Zone. Yeah,
commercial.
Get T-Rack, get Smokey in here, get Tempo from Nashville SC, and just do a.
Famously, I don't like the Coyote.
The Coyote hugged him once.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah,
that's right.
Were you here for that? I don't think you were here for that.
That was just me and you, bud.
Yeah, the Coyote displayed some semblance of human affection, and you just recoiled in fear and disgust.
I didn't want that. I did not want the hug. The Coyote gave me a hug anyway.
That was great.
Mistake by him. Now he's on my bleep list forevermore. Anyway, we can workshop that. I'm sure Bert, the creative department is just Bert at this point, and so Bert will be tasked with putting on a commercial, and we'll see how that turns out. I'm sure it'll never see the light of day. Either way, we have tickets for you to win before we talk about the best college football quarterbacks this year, and not in terms of the draft, but in terms of the best college football quarterbacks this year. 615-737-1045 is how you submit your nominees. Let's start with Kyle.
What's going on, boys?
Yo.
First of all, let me just say it would be hilarious to see Buck Terry Tate, the Coyote. My own of the week is Joe Burrow's career trajectory. This man is slowly turning into Drew Brees. He's not allowed to win an MVP. His team constantly lets him down. They have 6 losses this season where they've scored 30-plus. This man's cursed.
I appreciate the call, Kyle. So now, if you told an NFL quarterback that they would have the career of Drew Brees, which is Super Bowl champion, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah.
They'd probably say, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, a couple NFL records.
Now, would you like for Drew Brees to have won more? Yeah, I guess, sure. But I don't think that's an outright curse if he ends up being Drew Brees. Now, I will tell you that this season feels a bit cursed for him.
Yeah, I see what he's saying. In the losses now, I think we need to do this every week. The touchdown count for Joe Burrow in the losses. 8 losses this season. The Bengals are 1 game better than the Titans. In those 8 losses, he has 21 touchdowns.
That's ridiculous.
And 3 interceptions.
Totally ridiculous. Anthony's next.
What's up, Buck?
Yo.
Hey, rivalry week, right? A lot of passion, a lot of skirmishes and stuff. But all of them except for one was able to kind of disperse without using pepper spray. So they were able to do it. I don't know why the Michigan players were the ones on the sidelines getting pepper sprayed. I don't know. But to me, that's my kind of sports thing. We've had skirmishes like that all through the years and in all these games and stuff, and we've never had to use pepper spray to kind of get away from it. So I don't know why we felt like we had to do it this week.
I agree. It's an excellent submission, Anthony.
Does feel a little extreme.
It's not just the players that were getting pepper sprayed. Like I was listening on the way into Le Batard Show podcast, and they have a college football correspondent who goes around to the biggest game of the week, kind of like Pate does, and she's there to document like the tailgating scene, and they're just doing a bunch of social media stuff. Her photographer, her videographer got pepper sprayed on the field because she's in the mix. Like
some shrapnel.
There's plenty of people, not, giant football players, which also, by the way, if you are the police officer in that situation and your best response to breaking up a bunch of children, and I know they're giants, but still.
It's hard to call a
no.
6'6", 300-pound 20-year-old a child,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
I see what you're saying.
I'm sorry. You're an adult. You're a law enforcement officer. Your first reaction should not be, I'm scared of these giant people. Let me just pepper spray them in the face.
It does not feel like that de-escalates the situation. I'm with you. It is extreme. It's extreme. There have been plenty of post-game skirmishes on football fields, and they can be dangerous. I mean, these are big dudes that like a switch has flipped, and they're swinging, and there are people can get caught in the crossfire, but pepper spray does feel a little bit extreme.
I would say so. Jackie is next. Hey, Jackie. All right, excellent submission.
It's a good one.
Yep.
Great pick.
Chauncey next.
Hey, guys, looks like this Ohio State-Michigan skirmish is a gift that keeps on giving. Mine takes a little video evidence. And if you go back and look at the skirmish, Ohio State not only took an L on the field, but they were actually the ones getting the worst of the melee.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute mess. Thank you for the call, Chauncey. How many different? We saw 22 different schools involved in a fight this weekend. Yeah, was that the final count?
Was it?
Yeah. So like 11 fights.
How severe do the fights have to be? Like, because Tennessee and Vandy had a little dust up at the end of the half, but that wasn't anything. Like, does that count?
No, that doesn't count.
No, Michigan-Ohio State is kind of my bar for this, because that's a legit fight.
North Carolina, NC State was legit. Players were straight up sparring on the sideline. Oh, man. Arizona State really got into it. Florida State got into it. Mike Norvell. Did you see Mike Norvell was the one when Florida players were trying to plant the flag at midfield? The Florida State coach is the one that came up and ripped the flag away. He had some words. He kind of yelled at Billy Napier about it. Napier apologized in the postgame presser. He apologized for his team. He said there will be punitive action taken. He said that's not who we want to be.
That's who you should want to be.
Yeah, it went very differently with the Florida State post-game interactions. But
James is next.
Happened a lot.
Hey, James.
Hey, guys. I'd have to say the player at the concession stand, I don't know if anybody can top that, but mine is Aziz Al-Shaair, and it's not for the hit. It's for his you put a political message on your cleats, and then you whine and cry about people coming at you on social media. I mean, come on, man. What do you expect?
I haven't seen the political message on his cleats.
Yeah, me neither.
Is this kind of like Salah, though, with the... Like he's just got a flag. I don't know. I'll do some more research on this, but I can't speak to specifically what happened there because he's got the my cause, my cleats. Oh, it's so Free Palestine is the what he had written on his cleats. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what it's there for. Like, they're allowed to make statements for causes. That's a cause that he considers important. He feels now whatever his reaction was, he has to be prepared for the blowback. So if he's taking issue with that, then he has to understand. But I have no issue with players using that opportunity to message what they're trying to message, as long as it's not outrageous, right? Jim is next.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. And I apologize for the weakness of this, oh no, but I drive around town and I hear 104.5's promos, and they're saying the battle of the AFC South. And then it's Tennessee and the Jags, and it just made me cringe. So that's my oh no.
You know what, Jim, I'm with you. I agree. Jim, get the tickets?
There are a few good ones in there. Either Jim or Anthony with the pepper spray.
The battle of the calling Jags, 2-10 Jacksonville. Again, I don't mean to take out the promo people. Does Bert make the promos? Because then I'm comfortable taking out the promo people. That I'm fine with.
It's a toss-up.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that being the submission. That is the battle of the AFC for a 2-win football team and a 3-win football team. Hey, I'm not mad at the promo people because they got to sell it.
It's a divisional game.
That's what it is. There will be a game played. I don't know if it'll be a battle. I don't know what it'll look like.
Don't want to lose to the Jags at home. They're terrible.
Congrats, Jim.
I'm good with giving Jim the tickets. That's like I heard a promo running the other day about Bill Callahan's offensive line plays here. I was like, I don't know if that's the thing that we want to be promoting. Anyway, all right, congratulations to Jim. He's going to go see Justin Timberlake. He is going to also get a $100 gift card from a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Voice crack there. Not ideal. 615-737-1045, the number. Coming up next, we'll talk about the most impressive quarterbacks of the college football season and what Brian Callahan had to say about his players' post-game comments that we spent so much time on yesterday. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in Middle Tennessee. If you're thinking about lunch, think about Hattie B's, any one of their Middle Tennessee locations. If you're listening to us in another city, there may just be a Hattie B's near you. Dallas, Austin, Vegas.
Birmingham?
Oh, Birmingham has Hattie B's now. Look at that. Signs of civilization. I've never been to Birmingham. I shouldn't speak ill of it that way.
It's fine.
Okay. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Thanks to all who participated for the thing in sports that made you say, oh no. Always tune in. Tuesdays at 10:45. We have great things for you to win. Even though Jermaine says, hard to make a submission when the lines stay busy. 2 months of trying to call in and still can't get through. One day it will happen.
Keep trying, Jeremy.
Jermaine.
We believe in you.
I mean, Justin Timberlake, a fairly popular act. So fair to expect there was going to be some level of interest in that.
He is canceling a few shows, but the Nashville show still on.
I bet that's a good live show.
Yeah, it is. I know folks that have seen him live that say it delivers.
So, did the college football quarterback class of 2024 deliver? That's the question that's being asked as we talk about two Heisman Trophy frontrunners. Normally we talk about the Heisman Trophy in the 11 o'clock hour on Tuesdays, but that's basically been Travis Hunter's award to win now for, I would say, the better part of a month.
3 touchdowns and an interception to close out his regular season against Oklahoma State. Genty was phenomenal against Oregon State in their finale. But, yeah, I think we're there. I think it's Hunter is going to hoist that trophy. Genty absolutely should be invited to New York. And then throw in whatever quarterback you want to send up there. Cam Ward, if you want a free trip to the Big Apple, I imagine those will be the 3. But Travis Hunter absolutely should be the Heisman winner.
Okay. So it's usually an award that goes to quarterbacks, which is nice that we're going to see some at least difference, some diversity of position competing at the top of the Heisman Trophy award this year, or competing for the Heisman Trophy this year, between a running back and a wide receiver / defensive back, who should obviously win it because he's the best player in college football this year. The quarterback class, though, who is the best quarterback in college this year? And I don't mean the best college quarterback draft prospect. I mean the best quarterback in college football in 2024. Because I found a list from March on ESPN.com. It's ranking the 10 best college football quarterbacks heading into this season. I bet you'll never guess who they had ranked number 1.
Number 1? You saying that makes me think it's not who I would have guessed. I would have said yours.
It was not.
Who'd they have?
Carson Beck. Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback.
That makes sense.
Coming into this season with 3,941 yards passing, 24 touchdowns against 6 picks. He had 117 rushing yards in 2023. 4 rushing touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of 85.2. He got 89 points in terms of their point system for the voting. 5 first-place votes for Carson Beck.
Yeah, he was a projected number 1 overall pick.
This year, I think you would have a hard time putting him even. I mean, he would be in the top 10, but he would probably be 10th if you were looking at it now after the regular season has concluded. Now as we head into conference championship weekend, it would be tough for me to argue that there were not 9 better quarterbacks, or that there were not 9 better quarterbacks than Carson Beck this year.
Separating draft prospects, because you're right, this is not about who's the best quarterback in the upcoming draft class. Who's the most impressive college football quarterback of 2024? It's already been mentioned. Mine's been mentioned in the F&M Bank chat. Russell says it. I think it's Kyle McCord of Syracuse, who leaves Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't want him. He transfers out to go to Nebraska.
He's kind of blamed a little bit, Kyle McCord, for the way that ended. He wasn't good enough, when it was never disclosed, at least publicly to my knowledge, how hurt he actually was.
No, he wasn't good enough for Ohio State last year. And he decides he's going to transfer to Nebraska. And then Nebraska gets Dylan Raiola, the 5-star quarterback, to come in, the legacy, right? The future of the program. So Kyle McCord pivots again and goes to Syracuse to play for Fran Brown. Syracuse goes on a great run this year. They knock off Miami at the end of the regular season on Saturday, come back from down 21 to do it in a thrilling shootout game. And Kyle McCord, on the same day that Ohio State, like we said yesterday, can barely complete a forward pass and loses to Michigan in embarrassing fashion at home, scoring 10 points. On the same day, Kyle McCord goes off on Miami and finishes the regular season as college football's lead passer. 4,326 yards for McCord, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, kind of reminding everybody, yeah, he was a blue chip quarterback coming out of high school too. He's still a talented player, and he had as good of sort of comeback kind of story this year as anybody, I think, in college football. For me, Kyle McCord is the most impressive college football quarterback of 2024.
So I'm going to say Cam Ward, because the only reason we're not having that conversation around Cam Ward is because his defense was horrendous this year, and I don't trust his head coach as far as in-game decision-making, and I think Miami let him down in a big fashion. I also think it's interesting to hear people like Pate talk about it, that Ohio State had an opportunity to acquire Cam Ward on the most expensive college football roster ever assembled and just wasn't that interested. Opting instead for opting for Will Howard, who I don't even believe to be as good as Kyle McCord based on what we've seen this season. Now, there are many different ways for you to judge quarterback play, right? But if I told you that Kyle McCord ranks second in terms of, by quarterbacks, total EPA this season, expected points added, second only to Cam Ward, that kind of lines up with where we're thinking. The top five looks like this: Cam Ward, Kyle McCord, Shedeur Sanders, Devin, is it Dampierre at New Mexico?
I'd be lying if I said I knew a lot about the New Mexico quarterback.
Either
situation.
way, he's fourth and Dylan Gabriel is fifth. That rounds out the top five. So you can judge them by that. You can judge them by their quarterback rating, where Kyle McCord is not ranked quite as high. He's 19th among qualified college quarterbacks as far as QBR goes, but we understand that QBR is not a perfect metric either. He would not have made an appearance anywhere on this top 10 list of 2024 college quarterbacks to watch that ESPN did in March. That list, for what it's worth, was Carson Beck 1, Dylan Gabriel 2, Quinn Ewers 3, Jalen Milroe 4, Noah Fafita at Arizona 5.
He had a disappointing season.
Jackson Dart, Ole Miss 6, Jalen Daniels at Kansas 7th, Shedeur 8, Cam Rising, cousin Cam at Utah, who got hurt, unfortunately, in his 17th season of college football, or whatever this is for him. And then Cam Ward rounds out the top 10 in the preseason rankings of college football quarterbacks. For me, it's Cam Ward, but I mean, Dylan Gabriel is not flashy. He just goes about his job on a good football team, a quality football team in Oregon, and he gets the job done.
Yeah, they've been so quiet in the last few weeks since that Ohio State game, which was one of the games of the season. Oregon's just kind of been plugging along, almost lost to Wisconsin, otherwise taking care of business. It's hard to really know what to make of the Ducks, other than we know what they are, that they're great in the trenches.
They're a good football team.
They're a really good football team, talented. Dan Lanning's done as good of a job as anybody in building that program, but they haven't been tested since the Ohio State game. We'll see if they are against Penn State.
All right. How much bias do I have when I tell you that I'm as impressed with Curtis Rourke as I am just about any other player this year?
It is impressive. It is.
Because I'm not stupid enough to, I'm stupid, but I'm not stupid enough to think that he's done a better job than Kyle McCord or Cam Ward or, I mean, even Shedeur. But the degree of difficulty at that place that is the most losing program in the history of college football, he's a transfer from Ohio. He comes in and he is the biggest catalyst for why Indiana had the season that they did. There's a great many players that contributed to that. There's a bunch of different transfer players who came in and completely changed the talent profile that Indiana football had on offer. There are some players who have been there that did contribute to that as well, but I can't say enough about the job that Curtis Rourke did. I know that I'm biased. I know that's my alma mater. I know I want to see them do well, so you can hold that against me if you want to, but I mean, he's second in QBR among these quarterbacks that we're talking about. I know that they got outclassed by Ohio State, and they couldn't get anything going in the passing game against that Ohio State defense. Ohio State now looking a bit more fraudulent today than they did a couple of weeks ago, but I can't say enough good things about Curtis Rourke, even as I acknowledge that he's not the best quarterback in college football this year.
No, but there is something to the degree of difficulty in maintaining that consistency in the way Indiana has taken care of business against these lesser opponents. Like, we understand what their schedule is, but there are a lot of teams that would be faced with Indiana's schedule that would not be able to separate in those games week to week to week the way Indiana did for the most part, other than the Michigan and the Ohio State games. So, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. The last one I'll say is the quarterback that I think I've enjoyed watching the most at the end of the year is Lenore Sellers, South Carolina.
Dude.
Awesome. Did you see the end of that Clemson game?
I saw the highlights. I didn't see it live.
His passing numbers aren't going to jump off the page. 164 yards, an interception.
But he, from what I understand, and to see some of the Shane Beamer press conference afterwards, they had plays called. He just was better than the plays that were called. He made the coaching staff look smarter than however smart they might actually be.
Gamer, 166 yards on the ground in the Clemson game, 2 touchdowns, including what ended up being the game-winning score so many times that he's just escaping the grasp of the Clemson defense in the pocket, making plays. That dude's just a gamer. And I think if he is fully healthy in that LSU game, where South Carolina gave up the big lead, lost 36-33, officials botched it at the end as well. Sellers left that game. If he plays all 4 quarters of that game, I think South Carolina's 10-2 and in the college football playoff. But I think I enjoyed watching him as much as any quarterback at the end of the season. South Carolina, arguably one of the hottest teams in the country. He's going to be a problem in the SEC for the next couple years.
Which quarterback do you think has fallen the most here? Because the argument would obviously be made for Carson Beck. But I don't think Beck's season individually has gone as sideways as Jalen Milroe's has.
I agree, because the good with Beck has been so good against Tennessee in the second half against Alabama, the comeback that came up short. With Milroe, though, I guess we've seen a regression from both players, right?
Yeah.
But that is a tough question.
2,652 yards, 15 touchdowns against 10 interceptions. You got a QBR of 82.9 right now, which would be good for 7th. They did beat Auburn, a bad Auburn team, in the Iron Bowl, 28-14. That never really felt in question from what I saw on the day. But there's just such a level of inconsistency with Milroe. The decision making is also very much in question. Again, I'm not talking about scouting this guy for the pros. There's still going to be an NFL team that takes a chance on him if he decides to come out, which is also in question there, because I think it's entirely possible. Or when I say entirely possible, I don't know any information on this. I'm not reporting anything to that effect, but I think that it would be feasible for Jalen Milroe and the people around him to look around and say, no, it might make sense to transfer, for you to put your talents on display, maybe at a lesser program in a lesser conference, and boost your draft stock that way, because this is not the year for him to come out based on what he's produced.
Yeah, when he's been shut down in the run game, he has struggled. I mean, his best performances, you think of the LSU game for one, where he was just running all over the Tigers defense. Whereas Beck has not had much of a run game all season to support him. Offensive line has played really poor at times. When the O-line has played well and he's had time to operate, case in point, the Tennessee game, he picks you apart. So, and maybe that is a knock on Beck, that, like we talked about with Levis, right, at Kentucky, that Levis needed everything around him to be excellent for him to operate at a high level at Kentucky. And when everything around him kind of took a step back in his last year, that's when everything else kind of regressed. And maybe you could say that about Carson Beck this season, that you'd like to see him overcome some of those things. But when the situation around him has been strong, Carson Beck can play. It's crazy to think that we were having the discussion of, does Georgia need to bench Carson Beck just a few weeks ago? No way. He gives them the best chance to win, but they got to block for him, and they got to be able to run the football. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Jalen Milroe took more of a step back this year than Beck.
That's unfortunate, because I really thought that Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe were going to be special together, and it just never really manifested that way. Now, Alabama, again, has other problems beyond just the quarterback situation, but I was left underwhelmed, just pretty decisively underwhelmed on what happened with the quarterback situation this year at Alabama. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to contribute to the conversation before we pivot to do a little bit of Titans talk today because we did have some comments made by Brian Callahan at the podium yesterday that I think are of note, given how much time we spent talking about what his players had to say in that unfortunate loss, that demolition 42-19 at the hands of the Washington Commanders. A quick reminder before we go back to the phones, the Toy Field is coming up. What? Is that next Tuesday?
Yep.
Next Tuesday for Toy Field. 104.5 The Zone is going to be out there at Nissan Stadium to benefit Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels. We desperately need your help while you are out doing your holiday shopping. Please do us a courtesy and pick up an extra toy or a gift for a senior, which also is an important part of this as well. Those gifts for seniors, they can be, unfortunately forgotten at this time of year if they don't have anybody shopping for them. And bring it to our 17th annual Toy Field presented by First Horizon to help fulfill the dreams of thousands of children in need this holiday season. Special thanks to Law Tigers, O'Charlie's, and A.O. Smith. To learn more, visit 1045thezone.com/events today. Kayla is up next.
Hey, guys. Yeah, this is Kayla Anderson. Just so you're knowing there isn't a multiple Kayla out there.
I was just, I thought maybe to ask first, but it's always nice to hear from you. Lovely for you to stop by.
It's spelled K-A-Y-L-A, not Kyla. No, I loved your guys' conversation, though, about the quarterbacks right now, just who's the best in terms of college football. And I did want to bring in, just because I'm familiar with him, watching him at Washington State, I wanted to bring him into the conversation for the sheer fact that, unfortunately, just like Cam Ward, we provided the college football world with him, we're probably going to lose John Mateer at Washington State because we just don't have the money to pay him. John Mateer has been the Washington State quarterback. He's a sophomore this season. He's been absolutely outstanding. 3,139 yards through the air, 826 yards rushing with 44 touchdowns. He's been the absolute heart and soul of that team, let alone what he's doing with his numbers this season. The guy is just incredibly hard to take down. He is an absolute monster in terms of being able to prepare for a guy like that. And I do believe, since we just lost offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle to Oklahoma to go be the offensive coordinator there, which they really needed, there is rumors that they're probably going to try to pursue him to come with him. So that will affect the SEC in terms of not having to play a really crappy Oklahoma offense moving forward. It could be upgraded.
What happened against Wyoming?
What happened the last 3 games of the season? That wasn't John Mateer's fault, though. That was our stupid, stinky defense, which, yes, they have also fired the defensive coordinator at Washington State. That's what happened.
Well, it's lovely to hear from you. You can call us anytime, Kayla. It's good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Kayla.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
That's Kayla Anderson. Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Weekdays, 6 to 10 a.m.
That does bring up an interesting potential domino effect. If Mateer were to go to Oklahoma, then what would happen with Jackson Arnold, the 5-star quarterback that got benched early on and then came back in, helped them beat Alabama?
Doesn't matter.
I don't know, man. You see, I mean, we talk about this in the NFL, right, where guys are given up on so early and then they sort of pop up somewhere. That can happen with a 20-year-old. That it was hard to believe that he got benched as quickly as he did. So if Oklahoma is going to move on from Jackson Arnold, he's going to have suitors as one of the more talented quarterbacks from his recruiting class. So, yeah, I think it will matter. It'd be a big piece of the transfer portal quarterback carousel.
That would suck to be a fan of a program like Washington State, like Kayla's saying, and just have a quarterback like that and to come to realization, we can't pay him. We're not going to be able to afford him after a while. That's tough.
Yeah. Need that TV money.
Coming up next, we will be joined by our high school football hero, outside linebacker Eric Hazard of Page High School. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. So we're coming to a close on the high school football season so far. And it's been an exciting one. Lucas has been doing the games for My TV 30 on television. Obviously, Will Bowling and Brad Hopkins have been doing them for the radio station on 104.5 The Zone. And we're very happy to be joined by our next high school football hero, Page outside linebacker Eric Hazard is here with us on the show. First and foremost, Eric, congratulations on your guys' success so far. I know that you still haven't gotten to accomplish your ultimate goal, which is still ahead of you at this point, but it's got to be a great feeling to get back to the big game.
Oh, for sure. And going into war with these guys, it's been great all year. And then just to have that one more game to close out not only my senior season, but hopefully close out a perfect season being 15-0. That's a huge honor for us as senior leadership and just the entire team to hopefully bring this gold ball back to Rudderville.
5 tackles, 2 sacks in Page's 31-7 win over Springfield to advance to their 4th straight 5A state championship game, and trying to do it against Sevier County on Friday. Both of you undefeated at this point. I guess let's start with the game against Springfield, Eric. What was going right for you guys as a defense? How were you able to neutralize what they were trying to accomplish across the board there?
As a defense, we started off kind of slow, kind of feeling them out, which we've known to do a lot this year, and that's been one of the biggest things said this week is we can't start off slow. We got to come out firing off the gate. You'll feel the game out as it goes, but we got to start off hot. And ever since that first series, when they drove down the field, scored on us on a deep shot that they got lucky on, we knew going into the game that they were going to throw balls up, and they had the athletes to make plays when we're not aware, and that's exactly what happened. But after that first drive, we went in, we did what we were supposed to, we played Page football.
Eric, I think that might have been the 4th touchdown that this defense has given up all season against Springfield. Obviously, the standard has been, probably the best in the state of Tennessee, one of the best in the country, allowing 2.2 points per game this year. I could sit here and go through all the numbers that you guys have done on that side of the ball. They're just absurd, incredibly impressive. How have you guys maintained that level week to week to week as a defensive unit on your way back to Chattanooga?
It's definitely just a mindset between all the guys. We're very old for our defense. We got 8 guys coming back from last year's state runner-up team. And having that with chemistry with a bunch of guys in high school, that's huge, especially with some of us playing ever since 5th grade together, going through middle school together, and just having that chemistry among each other. I mean, we have 3 Power 4 guys that are on each level of our defense, which when you look at it, that's kind of crazy for a defense. That's kind of crazy for a team as a whole to have 4 Power 4 guys going to the next level in a public school zone. And just having that leadership among everybody, knowing what it takes to get to that level, knowing the preparation that it takes to put it into games, and having the little stuff to build off each other and then pour into the little guys that don't get as much reps or haven't played in the big games like we have. This is this will be my 4th state championship game, 60th game played as a high school player, and that's huge for us, and it's huge for our leadership. We're always pouring into these guys. We come in every week having the same mentality that we're going to do the best we can and hopefully put up a 0, and that's our expectation. We have a very dynamic defense that is headhunting every play, and we want the ball.
Well, and it's you and Brendan Ains, opposite of you, the 2 outside linebackers that have been one of the duos of high school football in the state this year. Obviously, both of you guys Power 4, future Power 4 players. You going to Louisville, Brendan going to Tennessee. But you guys go way back, right? I know y'all are meeting in the backfield a lot this season, but how far back do you two go in terms of being teammates and growing up together and now getting a chance to compete for a state championship together in your senior year?
We go all the way back to Little League ball. We played at Nolensville Panthers together, so we've always had that little brotherhood with each other. We've talked about it a lot here recently, and just our chemistry together, you can see it on and off the field, from the way we talk to each other in the halls to the way we play football together, and I think that helps us a lot. Just knowing how each other plays, knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, and just being able to play off of each other. He's a lot better in space than I am, and then I'm a lot better up front against the line than he is. And just having those kind of guys that can work with each other and make plays and not worry about what's to come, like just taking on one play at a time.
All right, I'm a Tennessee alum, Eric, so you got to tell me, gas up your boy a little bit. What are the Vols getting in Brendan Haynes?
They're getting a headhunter, that's for sure. He never backs down off a play. He's always going to be flying around. His size is perfect for a linebacker at the next level, and I think you're definitely getting one heck of an athlete.
All right, I'm an Indiana alum, and I know you're committed to Louisville, but it's very, very close. Are you sure you won't reconsider?
I'm positive. I'm 100% committed.
What about the Louisville program right now makes the most sense for you? Because I know they've got some exciting things going on beyond just beating the snot out of Kentucky over the weekend.
For sure. A couple of weeks ago, I picked up my dream offer for Mississippi State, and it was one of those tough decisions. Like, as a kid, I always dreamed of Mississippi State, going to play football there. My family has ties with Mississippi State. So getting that opportunity to play there, that was huge. But at the end of the day, you have to look really deep down and see who's poured into you the most, who has everything that you're looking for in a program. And Louisville fits all those boxes. And I love what Coach Brom is building up there. Coach Hagan has experience of getting guys to the league, and they've always poured into me from the day I committed to the day they offered me. It's always been about Eric Hazard. It's always been what can the game plan be around him. And I got another commit coming up with me, CJ May. He's a 4-star. He was previously committed to Notre Dame, and I've got really close with him. And the plan that Coach Hagan has for us and the DC has for us to come in, play early, get a lot of reps early, and just build our stock. And that's been huge for us, and we have a lot of great things to come, and I think Louisville, Kentucky is going to be where it's at.
Paige, outside linebacker, Eric Hazard is our guest this week. Paige getting ready to compete in their 4th straight 5A state championship game. So every season is created different, right? I don't have to tell you that, Eric, but like
yes, sir.
At the high school level, getting to the final game but not being able to achieve the ultimate goal to this point, how do you kind of compartmentalize that for your younger guys, not just for you guys who have seen these things, who have played in these type of games before and competed at the highest level in high school? How do you kind of compartmentalize this season down to remove it from the narrative that is going to be created about your 3 previous visits here?
I mean, for sure. Like, the last 3 years that we've gone to the state title, we've played Powell and then we've played Knox West twice. And all 3 of those have been a different team. They've all had different strengths. They've all had different weaknesses. And looking at Sevier County, they're different from all of them. And that's one of the biggest things that our coaches have done a great job of this year is getting in there, looking at little things. And we had our first film session yesterday after school, and that showed a lot to us, a lot of little things that we didn't really pick up on this season that we have done on offense and on defense. And the main message for us this week as leaders is just stay focused on the main prize. Like, we've done a great job of it all year, and now to have the opportunity to get that 4th state title run, and for Page High School, not only that, just these players to get the experience that you got to stay focused, you got to stay locked on the prize.
Who is the first person to call you or dub you the Duke of Rudderville?
It kind of just came upon from the Dukes of Hazzard. It was really everybody at once. They started saying it, and it just kind of took over.
Is that the coolest nickname in high school football right now?
I think it might be one of the top ones.
Okay. I think that's a very diplomatic way to answer that question. Paige, linebacker Eric Hazard has been our guest. They're competing in their 4th state championship game, 4th straight 5A state championship game this weekend against Sevier County. It should be a fun one in Chattanooga. Eric, thank you so much for taking some time. Good luck on Friday. I know that a lot of people are rooting for your guys' success, and certainly I imagine it won't be the last that we hear from you or at least talk about you in some form or fashion.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's Eric Hazard with us on 104.5 The Zone. Did you play high school football?
We talked about this my freshman year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your freshman football team was terrible?
0-8. Our program, we're collectively
just the image of you. It's not like you've got the butt of a football player, but that's about it. That's about all I can.
Don't have the mindset, the athletic ability, the toughness, none of that.
You in a football uniform. The visual of that is just funny to me.
Well, the pads were way too big.
Yeah.
They were the size of my head, which is massive. Each of my first 2 years of high school, my freshman and sophomore year, JV and freshman went a combined 0-16, and varsity went a combined 2-16.
Okay,
so we hired a new coach in my junior year, and it turned around. But yeah, it was not a good situation.
That was not my experience. I played high school football, and we went to the state championship twice.
Oh, look at this guy!
No, but lost them both. Okay. So when Eric is talking about,
you know a little bit of what Paige has felt the last couple of years.
I think that's the last time that I've openly sobbed.
Sure,
it was the first 2 years that Lucas Oil Stadium was open. That's where they play the Indiana State High School football championship games for all the various levels. But getting it now, I don't know how competitive Paige has been in these games. I wouldn't pretend to know that. We got run off the field pretty easily in our 2 state championship games, even though we had SEC commits on our team and stuff like that. It's a devastating experience for somebody that young. It's something that'll stick with you. So that Eric and his teammates, again, we can't speak for the entirety of his team, but just hearing the way that Eric talks and carries himself with more maturity than me at 31 has at this point in my life, I don't know. I think that they're football players and coaches and athletes in general talk about lessons that can be learned from losses. And I feel like that is kind of the embodiment of somebody who has learned various lessons from their respective losses. 3 in a row is incredibly painful.
I stuck to soccer after my freshman experience with football.
How'd that go for you?
We lost in the state championship game my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then my freshman year of college, my high school won the state championship in soccer. So those seniors got to do what Eric and the seniors at Page are trying to do and overcome that heartbreak of the last 3 years. And they've been a great story all year. It's the only state championship game, the only Blue Cross Bowl in Chattanooga this weekend between 2 undefeated teams. A lot of mid-state teams. You've got D2 Single A, Nashville Christian against Columbia Academy, D2 Double A, BGA against CPA, and Oakland back in the state championship at the 6A level. They play Houston. But Page and Sevier County, Friday night, the only matchup at Finley Stadium between 2 undefeateds as the Patriots try to get over that hump. They've had a great year.
There's an article on ESPN listing Brian Callahan as one of 7 NFL coaches that should be on the hot seat this year. We'll talk about it coming up next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In NFL news today, Texans linebacker Aziz Al-Shaair has been suspended 3 games for repeated violations of player safety rules after his hit to the head of Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence on Sunday. The hit had Lawrence carted off the field and got Al-Shaair ejected from the game. The suspension would have the former Titans linebacker back available for Houston in the regular season finale between Titans and Texans at Nissan Stadium. The final college football playoff ranking of the regular season comes out tonight. The Vols are 10-2 and expect to be in. The ranking will come out on ESPN at 6 p.m. College basketball, the number 3 Vols are home tonight. They host Syracuse in the SEC ACC Challenge. Tip-off at 6:30. Vol Network coverage will be joined in progress in the second half on The Zone after Mac Talk wraps up at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Tuesday. Thanks for jumping in, joining in, hanging out if you've been doing so far today. I've got an article that we kind of teased at the end of yesterday's show. It went live on ESPN.com at some point during the radio show yesterday. I don't know if anybody touched on it after we wrapped up, but this piece from Bill Barnwell on ESPN.com, what Week 13 losses mean for NFL head coaches on the hot seat. Now, let's start here, because Brian Callahan, full disclosure, is one of 7 coaches listed on the hot seat. Now, this is not reporting. This is looking at the 7 worst teams in football this year and debating how much danger the coaches of the 7 worst teams in football this year are actually in. On a scale of 1 to 7, how hot is Brian Callahan's seat if the other people involved are Daboll, Gerard Mayo, Doug Peterson, Antonio Pierce, Zach Taylor, and Jeff Ulbrich? So that's 2 first-year coaches, 1 former coach of the year, 1 coach who we believe is just biding his time in Doug Peterson until it all comes crashing down, 1 interim, and 2 guys, 1 guy who used to be the interim in Antonio Pierce, but 2 guys who have at least been in their jobs for a period of time at this point. 1 through 7. Where would you put Brian Callahan on that list?
On that list in particular, I almost want to remove Ulbrich from that list because he's the interim coach, right? And it's not like the Jets are going on a Raiders end-of-the-year run like last season.
Darren Rizzi isn't listed here.
No, but the Saints are winning games. You know, I mean,
that's why he's not listed here.
Right. So to me, Jeff Ulbrich isn't even part of the hot seat conversation. He's the interim coach on a terrible football team that fired his head coach.
I guess in theory, the logic is, well, he's trying to earn the job full time.
Sure.
Like, this is Jeff Ulbrich's best opportunity.
Okay. So I would put Ulbrich at the top right with Doug Peterson.
Right.
I'd put Brian Callahan, honestly, at number 6 on this list. I'd put Mayo.
Out of 7.
I'd put Mayo 7. Be surprised if they go 1 and done with Gerard Mayo.
I would be. So you think that it's more likely that Callahan gets fired than Mayo?
I doubt either. I bet both coaches are back with their respective franchises next year.
If I had to bet, I would also take that bet. I would think that Mayo is less safe though, because of the discussion around. They didn't have a coaching search.
Yeah, it was in his contract basically.
You know what I'm saying?
Like the Vrabel trade thing wasn't even on the table.
Right. So the Patriots let this whole, media cycle spin up about their job, about Mike, about, how pissed Amy was that Mike looked like he was having a good time in the Patriots owner's box for that Patriots Hall of Fame induction situation, all those little petty things that popped up throughout the course of, throughout the end of his tenure here. Mayo, I don't think is as safe as you seem to think he is because of the circumstances surrounding it, because it was already in his contract.
Yeah. And there's been some issues with in-game coaching decisions.
Oh, yeah. No, they are not over. I mean, Drake May looks fine. Like, Drake May looks good. I would not trust Gerard Mayo. Based on what he has said, some of the messaging around the podium around the podium stuff has been, well, I don't know what else to do. But in not so many words, I'm paraphrasing, but like they're doing the best they can when it's clearly not the best that they could be doing with a professional roster. Like there are too many, just like the Titans. This is pro football. There is no excuse to be humiliated as often as the Tennessee Titans have been that they have a coaching problem right now. Can the coaches figure out the problems that they have brought to the table in addition to the roster having problems? Maybe. Yeah, sure. I think that they deserve a little more grace than probably most people are willing to give them. I don't think I've been terribly reserved how I feel about it. That nothing about the Titans on a regular basis indicates to me well-coached football team throughout the course of this season when it comes to problem solving, the amount of problems that have arisen. The Patriots, I feel the same about. There's no excuse to be humiliated as often as those two teams have been humiliated, which is why they're at least in this discussion.
Okay, I think you've convinced me. I think Callahan is the safest coach on this list.
I think he might be.
Because what if the Patriots just reset and said, no, let's hire Vrabel this time, like we should have done the last time.
I'd be curious to see if that was something that they did or if they tried to do what the Titans tried to do, which is go out and find an offensive-minded head coach, offensive coordinator to work with the promising young quarterback, right? That feels like the next pivot for New England as a franchise. The safest on this list, I don't know if Zach Taylor's going to get fired. I can't. How could you justify firing Zach Taylor when his offense does nothing but produce and the defense continues to let him down? And I know Joe Burrow's coming off probably one of the worst games that he's played so far this season. He wasn't excellent. He wasn't perfect, but Joe Burrow has had to be perfect. In a lot of spots, he has been. I just don't know that Zach Taylor or the Bengals organization, how long did Marvin Lewis have that job?
A long time.
That's what I'm saying.
Bengals don't go firing coaches.
So I would put Zach Taylor at safest among them. I would probably start Peterson in terms of most likely to be fired. I would go Peterson, Ulbrich, Daboll, Pierce, Mayo, Callahan, Taylor. So second least likely to be fired among these. Now, here's what I'll say. The only reason why I have significant confidence in him being back is twofold. One, I think they're just paying Mike Vrabel too much money to fire another coach. Two, I think it would be an admission of wrongdoing on the part of the owner, and I don't think she's prepared to do that kind of mea culpa just yet. That would look worse on her than it would on Callahan, if I'm being honest with you, which is kind of the situation that they've got going here. Three, I think it's more likely they make a front office change before they make a coaching change at that point. And by the way, that's not exclusive to Rand Carthon. I think that there's a couple of different pieces in the front office that should not feel terribly comfortable in their position right now, more so than the coaching staff. The logic so Bill Barnwell makes the case for all 7 of these coaches, yeah, on ESPN.com. And he cites their most recent result, which for the Titans is the humiliation, 42-19 at the hand of the Commanders. The way that this starts, though, is interesting because it's mostly putting the blame on Callahan here. I'm just going to read the first graph. Cliff Kingsbury might owe Callahan and the Titans a drink or two. 1 week after most of the football universe seemed to decide that Cliff, like Cliff Kingsbury and a cliff that he faces, like a literal sheer drop, right? The cliff was a thing, that Kingsbury's offenses were easy to figure out in the second halves of seasons. Jaden Daniels and company scored touchdowns on their first 4 drives and eventually racked up 6 conversions in a 42-19 victory. Daniels completed more than 83% of his passes and was responsible for 4 scores, 3 passing, 1 rushing, while the Commanders ran the ball 45 times for 267 yards and 13 first downs. Now, these are all things that you knew. But here's why Barnwell is citing that this is a coach that's already in danger of at least being in the conversation, right? You're 3-9. You deserve to be in the conversation around, is this person's job safe? Yes, we can agree?
Sure.
Okay. What he's saying here is that if they do not fire Colt Anderson, just to summarize, if they do not fire Colt Anderson at the end of the season, regardless of whether Colt Anderson can be better as a special teams coach or not, it's a credibility issue for Brian Callahan.
Yeah, Barnwell spends a lot of time on the special teams in the in the reasoning.
Well, he says that he is actively doing a disservice to the other two sides of the football, both offense and defense, when you directly have a special teams unit that hands the opponent as many opportunities to cash in as this special teams unit does. It's the worst in the league. Here are the examples that are cited. In week 1, the Titans had a punt blocked for a touchdown and allowed a 67-yard kickoff return and a 24-17 loss to the Bears, which you knew. The following week, the Jets managed to block a punt with 4 rushers against 7 blockers, setting up a short field and a field goal for the Jets and another 24-17 defeat. In week 3, Jeffrey Simmons flagged for holding on a 4th and 4 field goal attempt that went wide right, handing the Packers a first down. Green Bay scored a touchdown 2 plays later. Tennessee lost 30-14. Playing the Lions in week 8, a 72-yard kickoff return was allowed, a 64-yard punt return, a 90-yard punt return for a touchdown. They also fumbled on a return. This graded out as the second worst performance by any special teams unit in a single game since 1979. And then, of course, you have what happened in the game against the Texans, where the opening kickoff goes for 80 yards, where an illegal blindside block is committed on a punt return. You've got a fourth quarter punt that gets muffed to give the ball back to Houston. You also have Jaquan Jackson fumbling in this most recent game, which set up the Commanders with a short field and the opportunity to cash in 4 points. If they do not fire Colt Anderson, it is a credibility issue. Is the case that's being made by Bill Barnwell. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, regardless of, how much you want to assign personnel versus coaching in terms of the special teams issues, Colt Anderson is the person that is in charge of putting together the special teams unit. And the special teams unit is the worst in the NFL. Like, that just is what it is.
So, for those of you talking about Will Levis and all the different disasters and there have been disasters across the board, right? The defense has had disastrous moments. The offense has had disastrous moments. The special teams is the most disastrous of the three, consistently, on a week-in, week-out basis. Like, I got up to go to the bathroom, and Jaquan Jackson fumbled the return. Like, you can't take your eyes off the special teams unit because they are going to do something catastrophic at any given moment, and the person tasked with fixing it just gets up to the podium on a weekly basis on Thursdays and says, that's unacceptable. Oh, okay, yes, thank you. Thank you for stating the obvious. It is, in fact, unacceptable. So let's take the hypothetical a little further. All right, let's just assume that they make a special teams coordinator change at the end of the year, that's how that approach is taken, and then that at least preserves Callahan's well-being for the time, for at least the immediate. What if he decides not to? I mean, it happens. It happened to Mike Mularkey. Mike Mularkey wouldn't fire Terry Robisky. Mike Mularkey may well. There were other reasons why Mike got there. John Robinson, and again, what did Mularkey say in that latest interview he did? The owner and GM that were out to get me. So it doesn't feel like he would have been necessarily safe, even if he did change his coordinators. But if you approach Brian Callahan and say, Brian, Colt's got to go. I appreciate that you believed in him. I appreciate that you gave him his first opportunity to be a special teams coordinator after being an assistant previously in Cincinnati with you. But he's got to go or else. And Brian says, well, no, I don't think that would be conducive to what we're trying to do here. We believe in our process. Whatever hypothetical explanation Brian Callahan might have for keeping Colt Anderson in place. Does that make you reevaluate whether or not you should keep that coach? I think it has to.
It'll be a big part of the offseason discussion around Brian Callahan.
He's going to have to make a lot of uncomfortable decisions this offseason. Callahan, I mean. One of them is going to be his friend. And listen, we don't do the hot seat talk like blindly, understanding that a lot of people's livelihoods depend on these people. Colt Anderson has assistants that work with him and for him. That directly impacts them if the new guy brings in different people, and it costs other people their jobs as a result. I don't do this ignorant of the fact that these are people's livelihoods that we're talking about. It's an unfortunate part of the business. It's the reality of the situation at 3-9. There are going to have to be changes made here, and it's just a matter of time to determine whether or not those changes are actually going to be made. We'll take your phone calls on this coming up next. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get involved. We will also talk about the college football playoff ranking. How will it play out this evening? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Well, hot seat conversation warrants a little fire, I suppose. Brian Callahan, the reason that we're talking hot seat is Brian Callahan listed as one of 7 coaches who Bill Barnwell of ESPN believes to be firmly on the hot seat this offseason. I think it's a fair conversation to have at 3-9, even if it is an uncomfortable conversation for those coaches, for their livelihoods, for their families. We understand all of these things. It's an uncomfortable part of this business, just as it is for players, where you talk about cuts and roster turnover and those kind of things. Coaches are not excused or not marked safe from the discussion of job security, and that's kind of where we're at 3-9, right? Nobody, save the ownership, because you can't fire an owner, is absolved from those conversations when your team has been as catastrophic as this one has, as many times as this one has. It's not just a one-off, right? Because I had it brought to my attention, just let's take the COVID year, for example, right? The Titans won how many games in the COVID year? 11 wins, 11-5 in the COVID year, 2020, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Won the division.
Do you remember the Christmas game at Green Bay?
Yeah, got routed.
In the snow.
Yeah.
Brutalized, right? Just outclassed. They had nothing. They also had no pass rush, and that was the statistically worst third down defense in the history of football. What was the Brooks Reed, 100-year-old Brooks Reed out there playing outside linebacker. I think they signed him that week to go out there and play for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, because that was the Clowney-Beasley experiment.
And Clowney was done by then, I believe. Clowney only played 8 games before he was shut down for injury for the rest of the year. And Vic Beasley and Jonathan Joseph were both released after the debacle against the Cincinnati Bengals, if I'm not mistaken, where the players just, I mean, they were dreadful in that game. That team won 11 games and got pantsed at Green Bay. But that's really the only true humiliation that team suffered. This team has experienced several humiliations on the season. It should not happen as often as it has to this team in professional sports. Now, how they address this moving forward, whether it makes, because I know people want instantaneous results, reactions. I think there are some people out there that are pissed that, for example, Colt Anderson, the special teams coordinator, still has a job today. I don't think it fixes anything this year to fire him in season. There's 5 games left. It doesn't mean you have to keep him, but just the same way that Vrabel handled the Todd Downing situation, which is even after the DUI, they wrote it out because it's, I mean, what is going to get significantly better by making that change?
Well, you had more of a solution in-house then than you do now in special teams.
Yeah, Tim Kelly.
Who did get the job after you fired Todd Downing.
Yeah, and you could have made the case for that, but I get the logic for a coaching staff was, is it going to substantially fix our problems to make this change in real time versus the amount of headache that it will cause to make this change in real time and deal with the ripple effect of that? There's at least an argument to be made there. There are so many different things to pick apart about this team, though, because the roster is still not good enough, even though they spent a ton of money to try and correct it. The coaching staff, I think, is at least in their first season, many of them doing these jobs, specifically the coordinators and the head coach, they've been outmatched at a couple of different opportunities. They can learn from those experiences and improve upon those experiences. That's absolutely something that can happen. But I think ultimately you have to just kind of see what these next 5 games hold for this specific team, right? Versus the other, like Brian Daboll, you could go without seeing these last 5 games and be comfortable making a change, right? Zach Taylor is another one that you want to see the next 5 games play out to see how much more fight they have in them. Brian Callahan getting up to the podium with us on Sunday night in Washington or in Landover and saying, you know, how disappointed he was in himself for thinking that they had gotten a bunch of problems fixed that clearly had not been fixed and just immediately bubbled to the surface again, and kind of me circling back to his comments about, well, there's some stuff there under the surface that's going right. We just haven't been able to cash in on it yet. Where in reality, it feels like there's a lot more things bubbling under the surface that directly contribute to why things go wrong for them that they also haven't been able to pull themselves out of at this point. I don't know specifically what's going to happen at year's end, but I do agree with the assessment from Bill Barnwell that keeping Colt Anderson would be a credibility issue for Brian Callahan. It would be tough to It would be tough to stomach that as an ownership group, as a fan base, as people who cover them on a regular basis, if that was a decision that he ultimately made. Now, I don't know what decision he's going to make. He's got 5 more games to do that in an offseason to make those uncomfortable decisions. 615-737-1045, how you jump in. In the meantime, let's go to Neil up next.
Hey, Bucks. Thanks for taking my call. How are you doing?
Good.
I would just like to offer this point of view. Coaches, no coaches, I don't care who they fire, but this team is not good. This team is, for the most part, of course, they're better athletes than I am, but they're average NFL athletes. There are no superstars. On a good day when the moon and stars align, they can do great things. This is no different than any other Titans team that we've had in the past. Getting rid of a coach, the coach can't make the plays. The coach can't go out and execute. I'm sure that the special teams coach doesn't tell anybody to go and not keep their lane assignments or blow the tackle. No one tells Jeffrey Simmons to smack somebody in the face and get a penalty. This team is just not good. And making coaches changes, all that does is, I think, give the fans meat. You know, they want heads to roll because this team's not good. This team wasn't going to be good. This is a rebuild year. I'd just like to know your thoughts on that. I'll hang up and listen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, by that logic, they should have kept Vrabel. I mean, the roster was 10 times worse, right? You know, they added a bunch of pieces and parts. So, yeah, I mean, more often than not, Neil, I'm definitely inclined to agree with you. The problem for the Tennessee Titans the last 2 years was not, I mean, yes, did they have trouble replacing Matt LaFleur, and then, well, I guess they didn't have trouble replacing Matt LaFleur when they replaced him with Arthur Smith, but they had trouble replacing Art. It led to a bunch of different problems. They couldn't score points, and that hyper magnifies or hyper scrutinizes. It just brings a great deal of attention on every little thing when you can't score points to cover it up. So, yeah, by that logic, they should have kept Vrabel. Do I think that firing Brian Callahan or firing Colt Anderson, well, the Colt Anderson thing, I can't justify. I can't make a good case to keep Colt Anderson. He's done nothing to offend me personally. It's not my decision whether to keep him or fire him or not, but I don't think that you can offer the league's worst special teams unit by a mile and just and say that we've been able to fix some things, like we don't get punts blocked in back-to-back games anymore, huh? Isn't that progress? No, it's not good enough. The players that are making these mistakes on special teams are the new ones. These are the ones that have been acquired. Jaquan Jackson's a draft pick this year. I know he's a 6th-round draft pick, and maybe your expectation for a 6th-round draft pick is low, but, I mean, that's a personnel decision that was made by this coaching staff in conjunction with this front office. James Williams has been penalized a great deal this year on special teams in particular. He contributed to that. You could argue that there was missed calls on the Commanders on that specific play where he drew a penalty as well. That's fine. They didn't get the other guy. They got James Williams. There are things, the rate that they get penalized at, the fact that the special teams continues to be a weekly disaster, and then you have stuff like the defensive miscues that can pop up on any given week or the offensive issues that could pop up on any given week, that to me just does not indicate a well-coached football team. So while I understand your point that change for the sake of change does not really accomplish much, I also think that they have to show that they're capable of doing these jobs. And what you could say about the previous coaching staff is that they covered up for a lot of stuff. They covered up for a lot of bad stuff. It was duct tape and paper clips and everything else that they were holding this thing together with. But 7 games, 7 wins and 6 wins, you would feel grateful if you won 6 wins or if you won 6 games this season. And they don't necessarily seem to have a path forward that way, which would be a 3rd straight season with worse results each season for the first time in franchise history dating back to 1959, courtesy of Nick Suss of the Tennessean. Harrison is next.
Hey, Buck. I just wanted to talk about something that was said by Callahan in one of the interviews during the preseason that at the time I thought it was kind of alarming and significant, but I hadn't heard anybody bring it up here lately. And that was he mentioned and was kind of laughing about the fact that he wasn't used to the perspective of standing next to the on the field during a game, that he's always up in the box. And, you know, I know for me, being somebody that watches on TV, you see that perspective of the field. Last year, I was able to stand on the sidelines during a UT game and it's a completely different perspective, and it's really chaotic, and it's just very different. And I feel like, obviously there's not one single reason for any of the catastrophe with the Titans, but I feel like him transitioning into getting used to calling a game and being involved on the sideline, that's not insignificant. That's a very different change for him that probably has taken a lot of time to get used to.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you, Harrison. We have talked about that before. I think there have been other callers that brought it up, but I do appreciate the comment because it's real. I mean, Nick Holtz, Brian Callahan talked this year about this being the first time that he hasn't done games in the booth, right? Nick Holtz is doing the games in the booth as the offensive coordinator, which is what Brian Callahan had been for 5 years in Cincinnati. This is it's definitely different. And it's not just the play calling element, right? What is Brian Callahan's job? He's a head coach. Is he the head coach just of the offense? Well, no. He is responsible for all three units that are put out there on the field, which is also something that is new to him in some sense. Now, he's been in dialogues with offensive or defensive or special teams coaches probably in game before. That's not completely foreign to him, but you are managing all of it. And you are tasked with not only calling the plays on offense, but being a plus to all three units from the sideline, even though you have one unit specifically that you are most tasked with overseeing. That's a huge learning curve. I don't begrudge him that. It'd be hard for anybody to do. That it's taken a lot longer than you expect and that they've had massive failings in other departments as well. Yeah, there's going to be some adjustment to get to a point where you're comfortable with that. Matt LaFleur had Aaron Rodgers to cover up a bunch of different things at the time, MVP caliber Aaron Rodgers, to cover up a bit of his learning curve, right? Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan together got to Cincinnati without Joe Burrow. They had to go through a bit of a learning curve with Joe Burrow, but then Joe Burrow did a lot of the heavy lifting because Joe Burrow is going to make you look a lot smarter and make your schemes look a lot better than they might actually be because he's excellent. They don't have that here. So there are a bunch of different reasons why it's gone as poorly as it has. But the product is still 3-9. And ultimately, somebody has to answer for that. 615-737-1045, the number if you want to join in the discussion. You want to pivot to some college football talk because we have another iteration of the CFP rankings that will debut tonight on ESPN. The second to last college football playoff rankings in this 12-team playoff ahead of the college football conference championship games across the board. I am so curious to see what happens with the Ohio State loss, with the Miami loss, with all the different results that played themselves out this week in rivalry week. I am curious to see where does Georgia feel like the most interesting team to rank here?
Why don't we talk about it next?
But it's only 36.
It's about to be 37.
You want more time? Typically, we go to 39.
We could squeeze this into a 90-second rest of the segment, or we could talk about it next.
Okay, fine. Go to break.
Keep it local this holiday with gift giving from Hattie B's. At HattieB.com, they've got a full line of some damn hot Hattie B's hot chicken gear, from hats, hoodies, koozies, and more. I'm wearing my T-shirt today. Flock around and find out. You can create a customized Nashville hot gift. Pair it with a Hattie B's gift card for that hard-to-buy family member, friend, or coworker. I get it. Some people are just hard to buy gifts for. I've got those people in my life too, but everybody loves the best hot chicken in Nashville, and that is, of course, Hattie B's. While you're at it, visit any one of their 6 locations: the factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, and the Nashville Airport. Now also at Nissan Stadium, by the way, located in section 121 and 339, serving up the Hattie B's favorites at every Titans home game. Be sure to see him coming up on Sunday when the Titans host the Jags. HattieB.com. Be sure to download the Hattie B's app as well for pickup or delivery. You get a free dessert just by doing so. Visit the website. Keep it local this holiday with gift giving from Hattie B's.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Some funky music every once in a while. 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls. If you got them. College football playoff rankings tonight. We'll react to it, of course, in the morning. Oregon is expected to be number 1.
Yep.
Fair to expect Texas would be number 2.
Penn State 3, Notre Dame 4.
So 5 is where it gets maybe not complicated, but at least interesting, right? Because where is Georgia going to be after 8 overtimes? By the way, get rid of the timeout rule in overtime. Kirby Smart just taking a timeout in every overtime to bog that game down, which is why it lasted damn near, it felt like 8 hours.
Let's just start from scratch with college football overtime. You took the best overtime format in football and just botched it. Botched it with the 2-point conversion thing. Like, I don't know what that was that we were watching.
It wasn't football.
It was not football. It was ridiculous. Yeah, because...
No, credit to Kirby. He just played it right.
Oh, absolutely. But, man, the way... I hate how these great games, these classic clashes can go into overtime, and then just because it goes past a second OT, it just devolves into this 2-point contest. And it was just not good. But anyway.
Georgia should be 5th, though, yeah?
The question here is, how far do they drop Ohio State? Georgia lost on the road by 18 to a ranked Ole Miss team a few weeks ago and dropped from number 3 all the way down to 12. Ohio State couldn't move the football and choked at home against a 7-5 Michigan team in a big spot rivalry game. Where will they fall from the number 2 spot?
I think they need to be 9th.
I doubt they'll fall that far.
I doubt so too, because you obviously can't put Indiana over them. But I think it should be Tennessee 6. I think it should be SMU 7. I think it should be Indiana 8. And I think Ohio State should be ranked above Boise State at 9.
They will not be ranked behind Indiana, who they blew out just a couple weeks ago.
It would make me happy, though.
But I think Georgia will be the number 5 team in the country. The question for me, I think, is going to be between 6 and 7. Tennessee or Ohio State at 6. And then the other team at 7.
It has to be Tennessee. I guess it doesn't have to be. It has to be whatever the committee decides it needs to be,
right.
But it should be Tennessee at 6.
Here's where it gets tough because, the committee moves goalposts. They have certain reasons for, certain reasons against. Those feel like they change every week. In totality, the resumes put together, Ohio State's overall resume of a season is better than Tennessee's. It is. And I know Tennessee fans have been losing their minds about this on social media this week, arguing with various college football national voices about this. The fact is, they're both 10-2. They both have a similar caliber loss, Ohio State to Michigan, Tennessee to Arkansas. Tennessee's best win is Alabama, who will be outside of the top 10 in all likelihood. Ohio State has 2 wins against top 10 teams. And the rebuttal from most Tennessee fans that I've seen there is, yeah, but Indiana,
it's the Big Ten.
Indiana and Penn State, who have they played? It doesn't matter. They're top 10 teams.
Yeah.
So Ohio State has a better overall resume than Tennessee. The question is, how much is the committee going to take recency into account? Because that Arkansas game happened at this point almost 2 months ago. The Michigan game happened on Saturday. So Tennessee is playing some of its best football. They did at Vanderbilt what Texas and Alabama could not do, and that's win by multiple scores. And the committee has used that recency in favor of some teams. Notre Dame has the worst loss in all of college football this year to Northern Illinois. That feels like ancient history. That was back in week 2. The committee has given Notre Dame credit for bouncing back the way they have, and Notre Dame, to their credit, has looked elite since that loss to NIU. So will the committee have that in mind? Yeah, but that Arkansas game happened a while back where we just saw that. That's the last sample size Ohio State put out was whatever that was against Michigan. Or will the committee look at it from that big picture overall resume perspective? And that's the problem people have, right? Well, big picture overall resume perspective, how could Notre Dame be ranked ahead of SMU then if they're both one-loss teams and the Notre Dame loss is far worse than what SMU's loss is? But Notre Dame's not going to be ranked behind SMU, and we know that. So where does the committee sort of pick their spots to judge Tennessee versus Ohio State? And it's very, very important because the number 6 team in this ranking will be a host team in the bracket that we see tomorrow because the highest ranked Big 12, ACC, and G5 teams will be behind number 6. So number 6 will be seeded 8 in tonight's bracket, and the number 8 seed is the last team to get a home game.
You think people have struggled with that?
Yeah, I get it. You know, if you're kind of just checking in every week, it is complicated. You know, we're in this, so, I know we hammer that point every week. But if you are ranked number 7 in tonight's ranking, that bracket's going to pop up, and you will not be seen as a host team because the highest ranked ACC team, SMU, and Boise, I think, will be ahead of Arizona State. I don't know. Will be host teams, and that will box you out unless you are ranked 6. So what are they going to do? I think they're going to put Ohio State at 6, and I think they're going to put Tennessee at 7. I think Tennessee should be at 6 and Ohio State at 7, followed by SMU at 8, IU at 9. And then how far do you drop Miami from the number 6 spot after losing to Syracuse?
Miami can't be higher than 11th.
They lost to a 9-3 Syracuse team on the road. They gave up a 21-0 lead. But, yeah, that's the question. And then do you rank Miami behind or in front of 3-loss Alabama, who, despite the fact that South Carolina's playing better than Alabama, I just have a hard time believing that Alabama's not, if an SEC 3-loss team gets in, that it's not going to be Alabama.
No, I mean, it should still be stacked, right? Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina.
No, I think Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss ran South Carolina off of their field, but that loss to Kentucky, it's just so bad. It's so bad. I mean, it is.
I can't get over the play of Gerald Mincey going to get a hot dog during the game.
Yeah, you lost to that. A 4-18. That Kentucky team is 4-8. And was just lifeless down the stretch. And you lost to that team at home. It's so inexcusable. I mean, it is not as bad as NIU because NIU is a middle-of-the-road MAC team.
We don't talk about that anymore.
But it's bad. So, and I know Ole Miss has the head-to-head over South Carolina, but South Carolina unquestionably is playing far better right now. That's an impressive win they just had on the road at Clemson. Conference championship weekend will be fascinating because I can't wait to answer the question of, if Clemson wins the ACC championship, does SMU still get in? What happens with then 2-loss SMU, who's been in a conference championship game, and 2-loss Miami, who did not make their conference championship game, relative to the best 3-loss SEC team? That's a question that's not even a debate we'll have until after Saturday's games. But for right now,
thank God,
my biggest question is, how far up does South Carolina go? Will they be ranked ahead of Alabama? Does that win against Clemson vault them on the bubble ahead of Bama? But even bigger than that, who is ranked number 6, Tennessee or Ohio State? Because I think it's going to be one of the two.
I think Ohio State should be dinged just for Ryan Day's postgame comments. I think they should be dropped below Tennessee for that alone. Polls? Before you do that, I was scrolling through people's Instagram stories and I saw Jeff Simmons campaigning for his Pro Bowl votes right now. Did you see who's on the Pro Bowl?
No.
For the Titans?
Tell me.
Jaquan Jackson.
As a specialist?
As a specialist. Is leading the AFC returners in votes.
Fan votes.
Fan votes.
What he's doing out there is pretty special.
It's special.
What? Wow. Is that like, are fans doing that like ironically? Like, is that a bit? The Titans fans are doing?
I have zero answers. There's not enough Titans fans to make that happen. I can't imagine.
My goodness.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Pro Bowl voting.
Thought we should get that out of the way.
A perfect system. Who has been the most impressive quarterback in college football this year? Goody says Kyle McCord. Robert says Dylan Gabriel, maybe. Karen is going with Shedeur Sanders. I do think Shedeur deserves a vote here because...
a vote.
He deserves to be part of this conversation because of all the talk around him, all the pressure around him. He's played behind some bad offensive line play this year. It has gotten better throughout the course of the season. But Shedeur Sanders has been fantastic for Colorado this year. They almost backdoored their way into the Big 12 championship. They were that close. Houston would have had to knock off BYU Saturday.
The FNM Bank chat exploded with commentary. Curtis saying, as a Titans fan, "We didn't do this. Don't put it on us."
Ashley submits redshirt freshman Sam Leavitt, the Arizona State quarterback, as the most impressive QB in college football this year. citing this tweet from Chris Cartman of SunDevilSource.com. Sam Leavitt finishes the regular season as the top-graded freshman or redshirt freshman QB in FBS by PFF among players with 100 or more pass attempts. Look out for Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham has done an incredible job over there.
The answer, obviously, is Curtis Rourke.
Bryce says, I wouldn't call him a top college quarterback or anything yet, but I've been impressed with how well Nico has performed as a freshman. He says the most impressive might have to be Cam Ward, though.
You're allowed to be impressed with Nico if you want to be. I just think there was an unfair amount of hype around him. The Tennessee quarterback plays in a fishbowl anyway, so it's going to be hyper-scrutinized, everything that he does. I wish that there was a level of no expectation that we came in with to just kind of evaluate him. But based on the level of hype, it's hard for me to not say that he's fallen short of my expectations.
Sure, but again, we do this with young quarterbacks in the NFL where we expect them to be a finished product at 20 in their first year as a starter. And Nico has worked his way out of some of those midseason struggles. He was great on Saturday. It certainly helped that Vanderbilt decided to rush 3 for most of the game. Was baking a cake back there, as they say. Do you consider Titans coach Brian Callahan to be on the hot seat?
Who says that?
People. 73%, Jackson say it once. 73% say no. They do not consider Callahan to be on the hot seat.
There's a joke to be made there at some point. But Callahan, no. On that list of 7 people, I would think he'd be the second least likely to be fired.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think hot seat.
I think he can be on the hot seat without getting fired. Like, I think you can be in 3-9 and be on the hot seat. Like, 3-9, everybody on the hot seat.
We could talk about it maybe tomorrow, too, about first-year coaches. A lot of struggling first-year coaches in the NFL, not named Mike McDaniel, or Mike McDonald, excuse me, who leads his division.
Those the polls?
Where will the Vols fall in tonight's college football playoff ranking? 55% are going 7, 45% are going 6.
We will certainly find out together and discuss tomorrow morning.
6 p.m. tonight on ESPN, right before the Vols tip-off at 6:30 against Syracuse.
Indiana basketball plays tonight, too, which is unpleasant.
Yeah, watch a good team play tonight. The number 3 Vols against the Orange.
I'm going to watch them both, and I'm going to hate one and enjoy the other and just be jealous.
Vol Network coverage will pick up in the second half after Mac Talk tonight on The Zone.
That is going to do it for us today. No prime time for me tonight. Tuesday's my off day. I will talk to you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.